What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer here with Mike Gallagher to walk you through Wednesday, November 6th, 12-game slate. Like we're a little scrolled down. 12 games on the docket, lots of injury stuff to talk through. With me to do it as always, Mike Gallagher. Mike, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Got a little golf round in yesterday. That was fun. Got a hike in. It was a good bulk part of the day. But yeah, feeling pretty good today. Catching up here, so hopefully we can fly through this puppy.
Yep, let's get to it. Let's start with Detroit and Charlotte. Detroit's injury report pretty static here. Still no Asar Thompson. Still no Bobby Klintman. And the G Leaguers are out here. Any notes on Detroit?
No, just a nice win. Minutes have been pretty consistent. One of the tightest after a complete disaster last year rotation-wise. We know what we're getting like almost every night with this team, so that's nice. And, I came away unscathed, touting the Blazers to win and the Pistons to win on Monday and, backing bad basketball and getting 2 easy wins. So, this Pistons seems pretty good. And it might, they might win again today as we'll talk about the other side of this one.
Yeah, let's move to the Charlotte side where LaMelo Ball pops up on the injury report, questionable right ankle soreness. Ankle soreness and LaMelo Ball seem to go hand in hand for the last few years. Unfortunately, Cody Martin is probable with an illness tag. They're still without their centers. Nick Richards, right first rib fracture, and Mark Williams, left foot tendon strain, are still out. We saw Taj Gibson start last game as a surprise start against Minnesota, a bigger front line. Jalen Duren tonight, a bigger front line center as well. So LaMelo questionable tag. What are your thoughts there? And then what do you expect to see from Charlotte at the center spot tonight?
Let's start with LaMelo really quick. Not good. This is the same ankle that plagued him last year, that ended his season. They were going to be careful with this whole ankle thing, according to Charles Lee on Media Day. And the way that the Hornets PR noted it was like update Capitals, after shoot around LaMelo's like, oh no. But yeah, it's only a questionable tag. It's not back to back. I'm very skeptical that he plays. It's because they want to be very careful with this ankle. So if he didn't play, it would be just probably Trey Mann to the moon at this point. He's been just anchoring the second unit. He'd be playing a ton. We'll see if Brandon Miller's minutes could come up a little bit. Hasn't really been great since returning from injury overall. They'd probably play a little bit bigger, probably see a little more of Salon, probably see, if Cody can play. Would note, be very careful of that probable tag. It's the old NA illness, doesn't have the non-COVID illness tag on him, which we'll talk about a little bit later too. I think Taj will probably start again. Wasn't really his problem, his fault that they got wrecked. I don't really think it was a matchup thing, so I think they probably start him again, keep things kind of steady there, but not confident at all. But keep an eye on that. That LaMelo Q tag would be probably one where you get some Pistons vets, and I actually feel like they got a leg up if LaMelo can't play.
All right, let's go to Orlando and Indiana. Orlando, no Paolo Banchero, no Wendell Carter Jr., and then no G Leaguers. What are your expectations for what we see from Orlando, who started Goga Batadze last game, and he played pretty well in that spot?
Yeah, we got to talk about Orlando. You could put the Imros on for #OurMagic. It is bad, man.
Yeah.
The last 3 games, they are dead last in offense by like a ton. Yes, their schedule's been quite tough. The Cavs, the Thunder, the best defense in the NBA. Cavs are also good defensively. This team just can't score, man. So I've got concerns. I'm pretty much off. I would expect Goga, who was really the only player that got consistent buzz, was I think called fantastic by Jamal Mosley. Would expect him to start again. Coming off an injury and playing that many minutes was quite surprising for him to have that impact. So feel really good about his minutes there. Overall, and then should be mostly the similar situation. Obviously, this Jonathan Isaac thing, they're not going to play many minutes. Anthony Black, coming off the bench again, looks like Tristan Da Silva, who played a lot, should be getting that role again. As an NBA ready player for those guys.
Yeah, the Isaac thing is really interesting given all the money that they gave him in the offseason and the way that they highlighted him in the playoffs, right? Like starting in that first round series against Cleveland, getting his minutes up in the playoffs. And they must just have made the calculation that essentially the thing that matters most is just having him available for these 12 to 18 minutes each night. And then in the playoffs being able to play him, and he's worth all that money. He's very impactful when he's on the floor, but it's really interesting that with all these big man injuries, we're still seeing Isaac very, very limited in these stints. This was a back-to-back, but still. Okay. Indiana side, Andrew Nembhard is questionable here. They're still without Aaron Nesmith, and of course without the centers that they lost for the season, Isaiah Jackson and James Weissman. What's your read on Nembhard's Q tag here? Left knee soreness once again.
This should be just a hey, heads up. He's not 100%. The Pacers usually do this with guys who are returning from injuries. This type of an injury, called knee tendonitis, as we noted last week, he had that 5-minute in out. Got updated by Carwell. Got updated national anthem. Talked about that last week. So, but yeah, mostly normal role minutes wise, defensively wise, but the handling role went away. There was Tyrese Halliburton absolutely demolished this team. I think it was 59 paint points against the Mavs. We'll talk about the Mavs side of this in a second. But yeah, they ran it tight. Carlisle likes to go a little bit deeper, but ran it pretty much straight 9. Obi Toppin getting those center minutes. They didn't bring in Enrique Freeman here to replace those those non-Weissman. I should say non-Turner minutes. There were a little bit of Weissman, a little bit of Ijack. Yeah, they're going to play it small, pretty tight here. Yeah, Ben Mathurin started. I was a little bit surprised by that. Played pretty good defense on the Mavs guards. So yeah. Should be basically run it back situation. Probably not going to get a lot of minutes out of Nemhard as they kind of manage that knee tendonitis.
Yep. All right, let's go to Golden State and Boston. On the Golden State side, D'Anthony Melton listed out. Brandon Pajemski available. No other tags for Golden State, so no tag on Steph Curry. In his first game back, he started the first half, played sort of 6-minute stints, then did not start the second half. And we were like, oh man, did we get rug pulled here on Steve Kerr? It just ended up being that he was kind of managing to these 6-minute stints. Some quotes and commentary after the game that he didn't expect there to be minutes restrictions tonight against Boston. So what are your expectations? Where do you think the minutes kind of fall for Steph Curry tonight?
Yeah, we landed on 29 minutes, expecting to have some sort of restriction here. Like LaMelo, Steph has an ankle injury history, so it doesn't sound serious, though. So I don't think he'll be full. Like we said, we got 29 to bake in a little bit of downside, and I doubt that. I mean, they're not going to play him anyways. We saw that last year. So, yeah, I feel pretty good about our read on the minutes there. And then, Gary Payton probably going away. Pods was ill in this game, should note, but he should be good to go. Would be careful. Those illness tags, even though you don't get it, it could affect play. That's been a pretty common theme this year. But yeah, and then so mostly the same situation, but it sounds like I was just kind of reading our Slack and you were talking through some stuff. Are we sure they go big here? We had that preseason comment that they, are going to mix and match the Draymond Small stuff. They haven't done it because they've kind of just needed to play all the guys they wanted to do. But this is a spot where they would probably go smaller here. So I think I wouldn't be surprised. That's kind of like, keep your eyes peeled if there's any lineup changes there. They freaking started Gary Payton. Like, we know that this man's not, too stuck with his lineup. So that's kind of just a heads up for Trace Jackson Davis and Kevon Looney in the matchup there, which could tighten things a little bit overall. But yeah, thoughts on maybe getting a surprise different lineup here, which it's going to be different. Like, I don't think QB2 starting again.
Yeah. So who do you think starting for Payton?
Kuminga Sharks, even though he's coming off the bench, or Moody. Yeah, it could be Moody too. I think Moody actually makes a pretty good bit of sense.
Why do you feel so strongly that it won't be Gary Payton? I'm kind of curious on that.
I don't know. It just didn't, like, they ditched it in the second half. I don't know. Maybe they did the same thing, like start him, get him out of there for matchup and stuff. Yeah, pretty impactful games against the Celtics. I don't know. It just seemed very odd to pull him. Then again, they pulled him out with Steph, so maybe that's why. Steph and him came in and out together. But yeah,
that's some of my thought.
Feel strongly.
Yeah, some of my thought is that they view him, like, Steve Kerr loves playing Gary Payton, but he knows that he can only play Gary Payton in situations where he has enough offensive ceiling on the floor and specifically floor space and shooting. So him tying him with Steph was interesting last game. Also against Boston, it's just Tatum, no Jaylen Brown tonight, but you've got a lot of offensive firepower with Tatum and Derek White and Drew Holiday. Having like another kind of premier defensive player that you could kind of switch around the perimeter with Wiggins onto Tatum, I think is useful as well. So you have Wiggins, Tatum, Dre in kind of that first unit going up against Tatum and Derek White. Drew, I could see all of that being interesting. On the other hand, like, Peyton Pritchard's been great off the bench, and you might want to try to lock him up with Gary Payton. So obviously a lot of different ways that this can go. In terms of starting big, the one thing that I'll say is, like, Boston, with Horford out there, it's not a big lineup, but with Horford and Kata out there together in the absence of Jaylen Brown, if they go that route, or Horford and Cornette, it starts to get a little bit bigger. And I think it's pretty likely that Trace Jackson Davis starts here personally. But I am worried about the minutes ceiling on this one in general, because we know teams like to play smaller against Boston. We know when the chips are down, Golden State likes to play with Dre at the 5. I just don't think they'll start that way. Trace has also been playing pretty well, so I don't think they'll flip that around. But I am worried about the minute ceiling for Trayce Jackson-Davis. I mean, we've seen him start and play like 13 minutes in some games this year, and that's very, very much in the range of outcomes in this specific matchup. But yeah, I kind of feel like, I also feel like the game's a 6-point spread. If the game's competitive, I think, Dre's minutes have been kind of held in check most of the year. They've been trending up a little bit of late. I think we could get into the low 30s on Dre, like pretty comfortably. I think Wiggins could get into the low 30s kind of pretty comfortably here. Just because of the matchup. Like, I think they want that bigger wing defender. And so we'll see in terms of who could get cut down. Moody, has kind of a little bit of size to him and some defensive capabilities as well. So him and GP2, I think, like, I'd be favoring them over Lindy Waters in terms of like this matchup, in terms of getting more positional size on the floor against a Boston team that usually has a lot of it. But we'll see. And then, Slow-Mo, I think, will continue to play his normal role kind of in the second unit. But yeah, I'm a little nervous on the Looney Jackson-Davis minutes combined here, because I think there's ways that Dre and Wiggins spike up a little bit, and that those are the guys it's most likely coming from immediately, because Kerr still wants to kind of get everybody in the game and, give out orange slices at halftime.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Boston side of things. Jaylen Brown is out here, as is Kristaps Porzingis, and then the G Leaguers. We've seen pretty consistently in the past that whenever one of Tatum or Jaylen Brown are out, Derek White, his usage really kind of spikes in those situations. In a big way. Like I was looking, at our rates earlier today, and we were flashing some massive unders on Derek White to start the day. And I was like, oh, I remember this. I know what this is. And then I went and I checked, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, with KP and Jaylen Brown off the floor, he's been like a 24% usage rate, and we were at like 20 scaling to 22 before. So those largely went away. But he's had a big role. Tatum's obviously had a big role in this one. I'm interested to see Keita has played well in his game, but Kornet played well in his game too. So I would think this matchup would be more Keita than Kornet. But what are your thoughts there at the center spot?
Neither. I've got a sneaking suspicion that they go Hauser here. That was kind of our initial thought. Two things. One, matchup. The Warriors are pretty good on 3-pointers. I think that they want to kind of like lean into that and try to out 3 them. So that's one. And then two, Joe Mazzulla, just the comments from Joe Mazzulla on just like, oh, we want to try different stuff. Like I feel like you're like, okay, let's just run a different lineup again. That's kind of those are my 2 reasons for it. I'm not confident in that, but I would just say I'm not confident despite Keita playing well. And this is not garbage. He was trending for like mid-20s in this game. In the first half. So yeah, I kind of lean Hauser here. We have like a teensy bit projected into it of them going a little bit smaller, because you see 23 Keita, and then Kornet still got 16. We saw a little bit Tillman that was a little bit late, but I think they might go a little bit smaller here just for matchup and just trying something different.
The tricky thing,
and
for
also
them is
one other thing too, Hauser coming off injury too. Maybe they wanted to kind of like be careful.
Yeah, the thing that's tricky about that is just from a rotation perspective. I mean, you then start to have like your 3 primary bench guys outside of Pritchard, right? Like Pritchard's your 6th man for sure. But then your 3 primary bench guys, if you start Hauser, are Tillman, Kornet, and Keita, and it just doesn't really fit great.
Tillman's dead then.
Yeah, for sure. But even so, like Kornet and Keita can't really share the floor together. So you almost have to like get rid of 2 of those guys, like 2 of Tillman, Kornet, Keita, or like play, Kornet, Keita, the equivalent of like 1 player's minutes. So it just gets a little bit funky. You have to elevate Walsh a bunch or Springer, stuff like that. So I think just from a rotation standpoint, it starts to get a little bit funky. And I think with Trayce Jackson-Davis likely to start, I think you're just going to see a big start. And I think the big will kind of match Trace's minutes, which might not be that many, but I think just from a rotation standpoint, it like works a little bit better to start that way.
Yeah, and I'll just add that the Boston rim defense has been really bad. We saw a lot of on-off stuff with KP that was kind of sticky, and it's looking like it's going to stick. They've given up. They've played a lot of like rim-heavy teams, but I'm surprised to see them be like bad with rim defense. After a good start.
All right, let's go to Knicks in Atlanta. On the Knicks side, Campaign is questionable with left hamstring strained. And then the other injuries are all the same. Precious Achiuwa and Mitchell Robinson still out here. So we saw Campaign miss last game. Tyler Kolek gets into the rotation there. What are your expectations for Payne tonight?
Yeah, we saw Kolek sub in there and then not sub in there in the second half. Tibbs went 7-man, airtight.
Yeah.
I mean, 40, 40, 38 in a game that was really, really close. We'll talk about the Rockets in a little bit there. But, yeah, I mean, Cam will probably come in there and play, but we saw him, not get any overlap with Brunson. I think that's kind of where I'm leaning, that he'll sneak in there as this team wants to bounce back, not a back-to-back or anything.
Yeah, and I would just note that the really tight rotation here, they were trailing a lot in the second half, and that's just Tibbs putting the foot to the pedal and trying to steal a regular season game like he usually does. This game against Atlanta, they're favored here. I don't think we'd see that level of tightness unless it was competitive, right? Which we'll get to the Atlanta injury situation, which is wild. But I do think we know Tibbs is crazy when it comes to rotations. We know without Campaign, he doesn't trust anybody else really on the roster, and Kolek gets a little bit of a short leash on that front. I think against Atlanta, the leash would be a little bit longer is kind of where I'm going on this. Okay, Atlanta side of things. No Bogdan Bogdanovic, no Kobe Buffkin, no Vic Krejci, no Seth Lundy, no Cody Zeller. Questionable tags on David Roddy, Muhammad Gee, Dominic Barlow, probable tag, and DeAndre Hunter, a questionable tag as well, and then a probable tag on Trae Young. So we saw them last game against Boston. They get blown out. Trae only plays 23. Terrible game from him. We still got Reese Shea and Jalen Johnson into the 30s. We still got Roddy up to 29 because they were thin, right? No DeAndre Hunter in this one. They have gotten Dyson Daniels back. If they get Hunter back, it's getting a little bit better. But if they're without Hunter and Roddy, it goes back to where we were before with no Dyson Daniels, no Hunter, and they just don't have wings to kind of overcome. So what are your expectations on what we see from Atlanta tonight?
Yeah, to that point, if they're both out, they almost have to play Larry Nance for some 4 minutes just because they don't have them. We saw Roddy fill that role substantially. That first game, we were like, "Where's Roddy at?" And then he goes in there and played a ton. The under did not go well for us. So yeah, let's start with Hunter. I mean, we've talked about this all season. This right knee thing is no joke. I feel pretty confident that he's not going to start, maybe for a bit, maybe ever again. I'm exaggerating, but I think they're going to be careful. This right knee thing has plagued him for 4 seasons now. So I think they start Shea the rest of the way here. Obviously, Dyson Daniels is locked in. So expecting the starting lineup to remain the same as Hunter will fill in. We got to manage a little bit, but it might be really managed. They might just keep him at 20 or something. They don't want this guy to miss time because you mentioned they're just got no depth right now. Yeah, for Roddy, I covered the Roddy situation. And Keenan Wallace has played pretty well for them. So I think him behind Dyson Daniels to kind of be their on-ball defender could cover most of that 48. Now that may not happen. You still got to give Garrison Matthews minutes. Mentioned Hunter. I don't think they want him in that role. They want him as a wing defender. So, they're getting a little bit healthier. Hunter would help them substantially to be able to just push up, those guys who were 3-4s to be more of 2-3s now, to alleviate some stress and not have to play Trae 40. Should note, as you mentioned, Trae did miss most of this game, was injured. Nice to see a probable tag, but keep an eye on that for sure if it can affect his play.
Yeah. I would guess that in this scenario that there's no Roddy, no Hunter, we're just getting kind of mega minutes on these guys if the game's competitive. And maybe we can see some Larry Nance at the 4 in that spot just because we're running out of bodies here. But yeah, it's pretty messy. All right, let's go to another messy situation, Cleveland and New Orleans. We'll start on the Cleveland side, which is a little bit more straightforward. They're without Max Strus and Dean Wade. They've also listed Jalen Tyson and Karis LeVert questionable here. So wing depth, an issue potentially here for Cleveland. What are your thoughts or expectations on Karis LeVert and Jalen Tyson, who has not been in the rotation's availability?
Yeah, Tyson's probably not playing either way. Maybe we throw him a couple scraps, especially if they don't have Karis LeVert, who's missed multiple times for this knee injury. So don't have a great read on the situation. Obviously, if he did play, I would expect him to be off the bench. Okoro's played pretty well. He had a really good game 2 games ago. Thought he played okay in this last game, earned some minutes. Sam Merrill, poor Doc. Doc and Taurean Prince are like, oh yeah, we can't let Sam Merrill, get these open looks, and then early first quarter, steps in, bang, Taurean Prince overhelps, hits a 3. It's just oh, come on. So yeah, feel pretty good about this rotation. Feel pretty good about this team. Obviously undefeated. I'm a Cavs guy here. Yeah, mostly. And then the other note too, Two things. One, hey, 35 for Jared Allen, 35
Mhm.
for Garland. Where's it at? Where is it for Donnie? Let's get some more Donovan Mitchell minutes. And then, man, Garland's been freaking good, man. Like, is he making a run for most improved player? Like, I feel like it's got to be something worth talking about if you want to add in there. But yeah, LeVert would just tamp down a little bit on the Niangs, the Jeromes. Sam Merrill wouldn't play 27 and all that stuff.
Yeah, I would say Mobley way more likely to be make a
Yeah.
run at that than Garland, just because of like draft pedigree. Like it already felt like Garland had kind of that breakout, and then just last year was an injury. And so I think like Mobley's got the like straight line ascension, whereas Garland's is a little up and down that I think voters get a little bit disenchanted with. So, but yeah, Garland's been exceptional to start the season for sure. Okay, Pelican side, this is the messy side. Out DeJounte Murray, Trey Murphy, CJ McCollum, Carlo Makovich, Herb Jones, questionable Jose Alvarado, Jordan Hawkins, Zion Williamson. I mean, we're down to just Brandon Ingram as like one of their top 8-9 guys that's not listed on the injury report at all. Everybody else is either out or questionable here.
Yeah.
So what could we potentially get from New Orleans tonight?
Yeah, this feels like such a trap that the Cavs are only -7. I mean, look at these guys, man. This is just Jalen Noel wasn't even on the team like a week ago. Jamal Cain was not playing. Brandon Boston wasn't playing. He played 37 minutes. Jeremiah Robinson Earl was in the rotation. He played 34 minutes. Yes, I know Zion didn't play. I'll get to that in a second. Like, this team is really, really, really shorthanded. So Zion, one of the most stunning, honestly, things I've heard from a presser so far this year was Zion didn't go to the game because of, quote, doctor's orders. What? So that made me really perk up. I kind of don't think he's going to play. We mentioned on the last show, he changed from a hamstring soreness to a thigh soreness thing. He has the thigh soreness tag again. I don't think he's playing. I think I would just take freaking Cavs -7 now and, not try to beat the line. I just think this team is way, way better. Add that to Jose Alvarado, who, A, you're losing that on-ball defense, and B, like, where are the handlers on this team if they're both out? Like, they got nobody. They had to play like Jalen Noel a ton of minutes. Brandon Ingram would be just playing pure handler at this point too. So, I mean, this team is in bad shape right now. They need to win. They got Delano, calling him Delano Rivera, goes off for 20 points in the fourth against them just because they ran out of legs. They just don't have it.
Yeah.
It was a back-to-back for them. So, yeah, this team is, they're just out of bodies. So, if they're out, I guess if Alvarado didn't play, they might just start Boston again. Again, if Zion's back. It's just bad. So, we'll see what they do.
The doctor's orders thing, it didn't. The first thing that I thought of was like, maybe he's sick and they're just not listing it. Maybe it because it's weird for like a hamstring injury to be like, you got to stay off this entirely or something like that. It's pretty strange. So I went there first as opposed to maybe it's some kooky injury situation that we've never seen. But yeah, we'll get more clarity. I know someone in chat saying Zion was a shoot around this morning.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. At least the doctor said he could go to the arena.
Yeah.
Maybe one more point. Hey, all this is bad, but hey, number one on Tankathon, got the Pelicans. The Pelicans got the Bucks pick.
Yep. All right, let's go to Lakers and Memphis. On the Lakers side, Rui Hachimura is doubtful with illness here. They also have probable tags on Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell, and a questionable tag on Anthony Davis with left heel contusion. This is notable in the sense that not only is it a questionable tag for Anthony Davis, and the Lakers have not been doing the list LeBron and AD probable, questionable every single game this year. So this is new. It's also notable that it's a new injury because previously we were dealing with hip soreness. So now we have a left heel contusion. Noted before that Anthony Davis playing 76 games last year was incredible. The weight and the offensive burden that they're throwing on him this year to start the season is also incredible in terms of the minutes he's playing. I worry. I highlighted this before when we saw 2 injuries on Aaron Gordon in a probable tag. I was worried. We'll get to that later. I'm worried. This is the second different injury in consecutive games that Anthony Davis is listed for. What are your expectations on his availability tonight?
Yeah, this was pretty scary. Goes to the ground. D'Lo helps him off the court. He goes back out there. He is hobbling like crazy. He's hurt. I didn't just hold him out. Get out of this road trip. Let him heal up. And then after the game, somewhat somber. Yes, you just lost to the Pistons. Maybe that was part of it. But he was like, oh, yeah, I got to talk to the trainers about managing this thing and taking care of it. Like, he's hurt. He wasn't shooting around, was getting shots up. Don't really know what to glean anything positive from that. So, I mean, if he misses, like, on top of the Rui thing, like, they're out of front court. Like, we're just, I guess going to the Rui thing, right? We're expecting Cam Reddish to start. We saw after the game, JJ Redick said that Cam Reddish has earned more minutes. We saw him just nuke Max Christie, who's been playing horribly. After I thought Max Christie was going to be, cutting into guys. He's the one getting cut into here. So he would have to play a lot. Obviously, they'd have to play a little bit smaller here. Gabe Vincent would have to play next to D'Lo a little bit more. Well, how many minutes can Dalton Connect, who got cut out a pretty good bit in the last game because Reddish was cutting into him? Those guys would all have to play. And this is what the Reddish, this is what the 80 in scenario that I'm talking about. Take 80 out and like, oh my, and we've got 6 minutes of overlap with 80 and Jackson Hayes as well. Take 80 out and oh my God, like you're getting a team that's gonna get boat raced, I think, as bad as Memphis has been. So yeah, be careful. But this is legit. This is not like we're doing the Q tag thing. He's like legit hurt.
Yeah. And schedule wise, they do have a day off, but they play their next game on Friday. So it's not like they get multiple days off here on this road trip. Memphis side of things, the length of the injury report for this early in the season is just really concerning within the NBA. But Desmond Bane out, Chichi Jackson out, Marcus Smart out, Vince Williams out, Cam Spencer out, doubtful tag on John Conchar, and questionable tag on Luke Kennard. Maybe we see Luke Kennard for the first time this season. That would be encouraging. But generally, this has been the kind of watered down version of the Grizzlies. They played very tight in this loss to Brooklyn, make it 2 in a row, and the home and home losses to Brooklyn there. Not great. What are your expectations on what we see from Memphis tonight?
Yeah, Luke Kennard, the Grizzlies are pretty notorious for, hey, doubtful, wink, wink, he's going to play the next time. They didn't do that. They went straight to questionable. So that's probably a good sign. Was it shoot around? So I think Kennard's going to play, which adds to the next question. Who does that cut into? Chris and I were talking through this a bit, and we haven't really seen it. We've seen that like three-headed, I don't know if I call it a monster, but a three-headed center group here. Does that get cut into? Chris and I kind of think it does, just because I think Jalen Wells has played too well. I think Scottie Pippen's played too well. And Huff, as great as of a story as it was, contract converted, yada, yada. I don't know. I think that they could go a little bit smaller here. Obviously, that could be a little bit harder to do if AD is a go. But yeah, I think you can still do it in the Jackson Hayes minutes. But again, my point here is LaRavia has played pretty well for them. I mentioned Jalen Wells already. Santi's been pretty decent, getting some rim pressure as well. He's been pretty solid. So Huff, starting to lose some steam. So I think that they play a little bit smaller to get Luke Kennard, who we have for 15 minutes. I would expect him to be managed from a foot soreness that cost him the end of the preseason and the start of the season. Hasn't played yet to probably today. But again, that could be a miss. They usually, like I said, they usually give you a heads up he's coming back soon. Yeah. So a little bit uncharacteristic to list him like that.
He also, this foot thing is like not new, right? I remember a foot soreness tag last year as well. So like this has been kind of a longer term issue for him. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. San Antonio and Houston. San Antonio, one of the two teams I believe that are on the front end of a back-to-back tonight. I think it's San Antonio and Chicago are the two. San Antonio will be without Trey Jones, Jeremy Sohan, who had to have surgery on his left thumb, and then Devin Vassell remains out here. So guard depth becoming a little bit of an issue here. What are your expectations for what we see from San Antonio, who blew a huge lead despite an unbelievable stat line from Victor Wembanyama last time out?
Yeah, just insane. Yeah, big deal, man. I mean, Sohan, he was handing it to the faders to start the season. So yeah, he's going to miss probably 6 weeks here. Jeff Stott's in Street Clothes noted it was at about 21 games on average. So that would that hurts for him. So that brings up the next question: who starts? I would say pretty strongly it should be Stephen Castle for role replacement defensively. We know Sohan's been one of their lead defenders. You see a lot of Stephen Castle slipping in behind him. Did start the second half as well. So it sounds like Castle's going to get the start here. How secure are the minutes? Not 100% sure. But again, like they don't have a lot of on-ball D here. It's pretty like their on-ball trusted defenders are him and the other guy who they gave this role to in the preseason, who's lost his role now, is Blake Wesley. So could we see Blake Wesley come back in? We know Mitch Johnson with pop out has run it pretty tight. I mean, Champagny, you don't ever see 38 at a Penny, 38 at a Barnes again. Wemby 34. That's more than usual. Chris Paul 34. So Mitch Johnson's gone. Tibbsian, Mike Brownian here. So we'll see. Oh, and Brandon Potts does get that illness tag. He gets a Q tag now, as I mentioned. Man, this illness thing it's been really annoying this year. So obviously Keldon minutes are way safer. We saw a little bit of Sandro Mamakavashvili play a little bit of the 4. I think that they might bring Blake in. A little bit of a hot take for me for guys out of the rotation, but you're just really, really short on just on-ball defense on this team.
Yeah. The other thing, though, the Castle provides is ball handling, right? And without Trey Jones, they've had when Chris Paul's off the floor, like they've kind of put the ball in Stephen Castle's hands a good bit. So that's my one concern on that front. I know they seem to like Keldon off the bench just to have like some juiced bench scoring. We also know that, in a past life, they started Zach Collins next to Victor Wembanyama. The matchup against Houston is one that Wemby has struggled with. Şengün has struggled with. Wemby's done a really good job on this year. So maybe that's probably off the table. But I think Castle's probably most likely, given he started the previous one, but it does create some like ball handling issues, which is another reason for Blake Wesley to potentially get in the rotation. Not that he's like a pure ball handler, but he's about the best thing that they got. Okay. Houston side, Steven Adams out, Tari Eason and Dylan Brooks listed questionable here, both with the illness tags, the NA illness tags, not the non-COVID illness tags. So what are your thoughts or expectations here on the Rockets?
Yeah, don't have a great read, but they do have Reed Shepherd, who would play a little bit more. Shout out to me for the joke. Anyways, quite confidently, if Dylan's out, it's going to be Amen Thompson starting. Amen Thompson was so good in this game. Just really took Brunson out of the game in the fourth quarter. Brunson was like 1 of 5 or something from the field. Didn't really have an impact, and that's really his jam. He's Mr. One of the big fourth quarter scorers. He would be starting. He would be playing a ton here. I feel pretty good about that. That would add a way safer minute ceiling for Jabari. We talked about this when draft season was wrapping up. That I'm worried about Jabari because Amen's coming for his minutes. I insta capitulated on the man versus machine on being too low on Amen. Tari's been great. Minutes limits off. We've seen him have pretty big impact playing mid-20s. We saw him play 35 the other night. So those guys would be interesting here. Obviously, if these guys are out, then you're bringing Cam Whitmore, who was dead. He'd be back in there as well. That would add really safe minutes floors, kind of all around there. And then Jalen Green, probably going to be really safe. He's been pretty good here. I almost cover boyed him. I just talked about the lack of on-ball defense. Like this could be a pretty big Jalen Green game overall. But those illness tags. That would add Reed Shepherd. Cam for sure back in. Maybe they go to Jae'Sean Tate if they're both out to add some more depth there.
Yep. All right, let's go to Chicago and Dallas. On the Chicago side, Lonzo Ball remains out. Then they've got a questionable tag on Zach LaVine with the right adductor strain. He missed last game. Josh Giddey probable. Jalen Smith probable. We'll see what that means. And then Patrick Williams probable. We'll note that right now with this Jalen Smith probable tag, we have an Adama Sanogo out tag for the G League. So that gives me a little bit more confidence that Jalen Smith is potentially available and playing through a probable tag, but always concerned whenever he's on the injury report. What's your read on LaVine's availability tonight?
Was it shoot around? But again, I'm only going off like a picture. He wasn't like in full gear. So definitely on the leaning out side of this thing, but not confident. I'd assume it was really good in this game. I think he had 18 potential assists or something really, really high. Would obviously be starting again, would be playing a ton. But the thing here, man, Billy Donovan, the whole or 80% of the presser was just talking about how bad their defense was. It was 135 to what was at the time a winless Jazz team. This was just, the Bulls defense is so bad. They're giving up the most rim points. They gave up a ton of catch and shoot stuff too. Now they're back up to 5th in catch and shoot possessions now. So they're just, just light. They're going to give up so many big lines here. I think I'm leaning. We obviously have LaVine in for projections, but it sounds like LaVine could miss another one.
Yeah, and in this one, even with LaVine out, Giddey's minutes just seem like they're very tied to Patrick Williams, and Patrick Williams was playing pretty well in this game and then fouled out, and so Giddey came in at the end to get his minutes up. But would just note that you would think without Zach LaVine that Giddey would be treated as a guard and he would be elevated as a ball handler. No, I would assume it was elevated. Now, Io played very well in this game, so maybe that's it. But I continue to think like Josh Giddey is positionally more of a forward on this team, is the way that they are thinking about him. So, Patrick Williams is really the guy that is push and pull a little bit more with Giddey. Okay, Dallas side of things. Derek Lively doubtful with the right shoulder sprain, and PJ Washington out with a right knee sprain. That's on top of Dante Exum and Maxi Kleber both being out as well. So front court injuries galore here with no Maxi, no PJ Washington, and likely no Derek Lively. What's your read on how Dallas tries to get by in the front court?
Let me start with this. Like, the Lively injury, like I mentioned it on the Indiana side, like they just got so many layups. There was no rim protection in this game. I think that's going to happen again. I think the Bulls could really score some points here. So the PJ Washington's easy. Like, they're going to start Najee Marshall. We saw Najee Marshall have arguably the game of his life. I mean, 20 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. Played a lot of. He was like the quote unquote center. They kind of used like Luka as like the center for like the roll low man coverage and all that stuff. So like losing him and PJ, who after the game, Jason Kidd's like, oh yeah, we put PJ Washington on everyone, which we've seen that. We've talked about this since they got him, like guarding SGA, guarding Jimmy Butler, guarding like the number one options. Now you take him out and you're basically going to put Najee Marshall in his role. I think Najee might play like 40. So I think he plays a ton. I haven't looked at prices, but expect him to play, again, a ton in a matchup that I just talked about. Is really, really good overall. So, and then, how much more does Daniel Gafford play? Did not play well in this game. I kind of just hinted at it. And then we'll see if Dwight Powell could come back to life here. And then we'll see if they bring in Omax Prosper. We kind of think, since the Bulls are so small, we kind of think Jaden Hardy comes back to life here, and it's going to be just like if Levine, if he goes, like it's just guard on top of guard on top of guard. This game could play pretty small, which brings me to my last point. Is it Vooch time? Besides the defensive stuff, the other bulk of Billy Donovan's presser was talking about, like, we got to get Vooch the ball more. He was like, I want Vooch to drive closeouts. I want Vooch to get the ball every time, like yada, yada, yada. So just talked about how bad it could. I almost cover Boyd Vooch for matchups, but went with another center who we'll get to in a second. But it could be a pretty big Vooch game.
Yeah, it certainly could. I also think it could be a big Gafford game because, in this one with Najee and PJ, you could still play PJ as a small ball center. Without PJ, without Lively, now it's Dwight Powell or bust. Like, Najee can't really play small ball center. So, and against Vooch, who routinely is playing in the low 30s minutes, right? Like, you can't ask like Najee Marshall to go out and try to defend him. So it's Powell or Gafford for the minutes that Vooch is out there for sure. And the Jalen Smith minutes you might be able to F around with and get and go small because he doesn't really post anybody up. But we're still talking like, I think Gafford's got a 30-minute ceiling in him tonight. Like, I think that's in the range of outcomes for Gafford tonight. Usually you don't feel that. And certainly against a Indiana team that likes to play small, they had PJ Washington and Najee there. It's a different story than what they have available tonight. Okay. Miami and Phoenix. On the Miami side of things, no Jaime Jaquez. He's still dealing with the stomach illness. No Kevin Love, return to competition reconditioning. And then no Josh Christopher, Keyshawn Johnson, the G-Leaguers on the two-way. So what are your expectations for the Heat in the absence of Jaime Jaquez Jr. and how the back end of that bench that continues to evolve? How do you think it looks tonight?
Yep. I mean, Pelle Larsson's got it. We saw him, kind of come out of nowhere in the Mexico game, and he held it down again. So, I went to go click Spo's presser when I was trying to listen to it as I always do. And I had like the Larsson is like the cover boy for their media stuff, which was hilarious to me. So yeah, again, like Haywood Highsmith playing that 20-minute game seems so long ago. Duncan was pretty light. Alec Burks is pretty light. So it seems like Larsson's like coming here overall. They're going to probably need pretty good minutes out of their starters. We didn't get Jovic at all in this game, partly I think because of matchup. Pretty tough to kind of stick him out there with all the Kings and the wing scoring they have there. But like Larsson's like kind of like their new Jaime. Young guy, inexperienced, who's just kind of take minutes away from these guys.
Yeah, I'm skeptical that sticks with this game specifically because of the matchup. This screams Haywood Highsmith game to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
With Kevin Durant out there on the other side, Pelle Larsson, I don't think is going to be a plus defender at the NBA level. There's nobody else that really has the size to be able to hold that down. So I think we see Highsmith's minutes tick up here in what has become a game of whack-a-mole with the back end of the Heat's rotation in terms of trying to project it. But I think that's where we're going most likely here tonight is Highsmith kind of is the one who benefits because of the matchup, because of Kevin Durant, who's playing a ton of minutes on his side. There's just not a lot of other options here. Would also note in this game, like Bam Adebayo, man, he was off to such a good start in the first half and then faded hard in the second half, gives up the game-winning tip into Domantas Sabonis as well. It has been a brutal start to the season for a guy who has outwardly complained that he hasn't won a Defensive Player of the Year. His play has been nowhere near that caliber to start the season, which has been frustrating.
Yeah, just to that point, Miami's calling cards, like the good transition defense, not there. The good read defense, not there. It hasn't been bad, but it hasn't been great, and that's why they win a lot of games. That they take those aspects away, and it's been trouble for them.
Yeah, their offense has actually been like fine to start the year, which is usually the issue, and they usually win on defense. But yeah, it's been a tough start to the year for Bam. All right, Suns side, Bradley Beal probable, right elbow sprain. He had been questionable for like the last 4 games, played a few of those, sat a few of those. So probable tag's encouraging here. What are your notes on Phoenix?
Yeah, Kevin Durant still got it. They should be good to go. We saw Grayson Allen play a little bit more. Cut into Ryan Dunn. We saw just 10 minutes out of Ryan Dunn because I think Nurk played great. You know, we talked about this on Friday or Monday. I'm all confused. Yeah, it seemed like the weekend, but he was great. Nurk was really good, so they played big. That makes it, if you're like, it sounds weird, but Nurk and Dunn have a little push pull for how they do play smaller there. So should note that. We'll see if he comes back to earth. Other than that, this team's playing a ton. 39 out of Durant, 30 out of Booker, 34 out of Beal, who should be good. Still bothering him a little bit on the elbow, but Suns are awesome, man. 4-0 at home, 6-1, second in the West, playing pretty good ball, playing as we talked about, pretty decent defense. Not so much this game, but another fourth quarter where they kind of had the goods. A game that they kind of blew a lead and then had it going. Durant was incredible in this game. So shout out to KD, still doing it.
Should theoretically, like based on size, opponent, whatnot, be a tougher matchup for Nurk because Bam is, you can play a smaller defender on Bam because he's usually not punishing people down low in the post, and he's very active with his hands defensively. So Nurk's turnover prone nature can be challenging. Nurk in pick and roll coverage can be challenging. But like I said, Bam's been kind of taken advantage of by really big centers this year. So a really wide range of outcomes for Nurkic tonight. Yep. Okay. Oklahoma City and Denver on the OKC side. It's the same injury report we've seen all year. No Kenrich Williams, no Jalen Williams, no Isaiah Hartenstein. Jalen Williams is good, not on the injury report. It's Jalen Williams, the center, who's out. So same rotation that we've seen from them. It's just, the Jack in the Box starter. We wait till lineups and then we spin it around and up pops a different starter each game. So want to take a spin at it this time at who starts for OKC in that 5th spot tonight.
Was Isaiah Joe the last time they played? So let's go with that. Let's go with Isaiah Joe. I think I'm gonna do. What am I? 0 for 7. So eight times the charge here. So I'm going Isaiah Joe. Let's talk about this game again. 86 points for them. I mean, this team's insane. Like that. So I talk a lot about their pick and roll handover defense and how they're first. The Nets are closing the gap a little bit. A random note. So they're first in pick and roll handover defense against. They're first in roll man defense against. Like this, you just stop running that play against these guys. And then other than that,
it's a little bit of a problem in the NBA because that is like the play that everybody in the NBA runs is a pick and roll.
100%. Yeah, 100%. But the other note here, you see Chet Holmgren 22 minutes. That was by design. Dagnall said, "Hey, we got a tough schedule coming ahead." Wink, wink. What happened the last time we saw Chet play Denver? Shout to me for the flag plant that game. So yeah, this is like he's fine. They just like okay, they were pretty comfortable. The Magic made a run at this game. We were sweating it under. But yeah, he'll be back. He'll be normal. Probably play a little bit more than we think. So yeah, I haven't got their minutes yet, but I expect Chet to play a ton. Isaiah Joe, not confident. And then, just, man, their bench is so good. Casey Wallace has been just awesome defensively. And then we did see, Dylan Jones. I think he got sent down. I have to double check that. But yeah, it should be pretty set. And I expect pretty strong minutes here. They're geared up for this one.
Yeah. Yeah, going into the 4th quarter with a 26-point lead on the second night of a back-to-back and feeling like we had to sweat some Orlando under was just like so painful. Just like begging Jamal Mosley to do the right thing and begging the Thunder to put this game away. All right, let's go to the Denver side where I mean,
you called it, man.
Aaron Gordon out, right calf strain. This was really quick. He played like 3 minutes last game and then he was out. I noted last time that the probable tag was concerning because it was 2 different parts of the leg. And now we get a right calf strain. I don't know if it's compensation because I thought it was left leg for the other 2 issues, but either way, he's out. He's out for a bit now. They're without Deron Holmes, the rookie that they drafted, who tore his ACL in camp. They're without Jamal Murray, who's still in concussion protocol. They're without Vlatko Konchar, who's doubtful with right ankle sprain. This is a team that doesn't have much depth to begin with. The matchup with OKC is awful. It's not often you see Denver, big underdogs at home in the Jokic days. We haven't seen that. And I think they're 7.5 point underdogs at home tonight with good reason for how well the Thunder have played this year and how injured the Nuggets are. So what are your expectations on what we see in the absence of Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray tonight?
Really tough for Gordon. After, I think it was the last game or 2 games ago, Michael Malone said that he was surprised he played through the probable tag. Like, list him question. Why are you listing him probable? But I digress. So yeah, Peyton Watson season played pretty well in this last game. Expected him to start and play pretty good minutes. He got the defensive player of the game as well. We saw him and Julian Strawther basically, play with the remaining 3 starters in for Westbrook. So a big bulk of their lineup was MPJ, Joker, Brown, Watson, and Julian Strawther. We talked a lot about this, that, Joker could be the point guard for this team. And that was a big bulk of Michael Malone's presser. Was like, all right, these guys, they're NBA players. They're great, but you got to learn how to be great with Jokic. That's our identity here. So, yeah, we know Joker's just going to just have crazy, crazy, crazy usage and just have the ball in his hands a ton. We'll see if Russ, who, as we know, that matchup sucks for guards. So we'll see what happens there. But, expecting Peyton Watson to start. On the other note, Zeke Naji back to life. I think that's happened. I talked about this last show where Darius Saric going away. I think that they're going to keep him away. We'll see how much DeAndre Jordan fits. Not a great matchup for him, so maybe we see a little bit of Zeke at the 5 this time.
Yeah, a tricky spot for them too. I will note that after Saturday, they don't play again until after Sunday, they don't play again until the following Friday. So they have a game tonight, game Friday, game Sunday, and then they have like 4 or 5 days off after that. So hopefully that buys them some time to get healthier. By then, Jamal Murray should be back. But it sounded like we might not see Jamal until then. It sounded like this is going to be a multi-game miss for concussion protocol. He got just absolutely like lit up in that game on the screen. So yeah, I'm not optimistic on what we see from the Nuggets tonight. All right, Philadelphia and the Clippers. On the Philadelphia side, Joel Embiid is out due to league suspension. I think that's notable. It's not due to injury. I think this is more just the sense that, they just let's get the 3 games out of the way from suspension, then we can go back to listing you injured if you're injured. Paul George is probable with a left knee bone bruise. He was on a minutes restriction in the first game, but got to 32. So it wasn't a really harsh minutes restriction. That was encouraging. What are your notes on the 76ers tonight, who played well? One of the first games they've played well all season in Paul George's debut.
Yeah, their offense was legit. I talked about on the Sun side of this. Hey, they scored 116, and the headline was 51 threes. Big 3-point volume, which I think they want badly. And part of that, that's kind of a lot going on here. But one of the reasons why it was so high was Drummond. Not foul trouble here. He got cut down. Gerson Yabusele, the Suns were leaving him wide open throughout this game to dare to beat him, and he almost did. Just a fantastic game from the Dancing Bear. So tough to parse through this. Like, the rim defense from the Clippers has been fantastic. Zoo's been an awesome rim defender. So it's a tough push and pull. I think we landed at 26 minutes for Drummond, but pretty wide range. I think he could maybe get it going and develop. But I talk about this all the time. Like, you add Paul George, you're bigger on the wing. You can play a little bit smaller elsewhere. So it sounds weird that Paul George coming back could affect Drummond, but I think that they want to lean into the shooting and the space and all that good stuff that comes with it. And with Maxey driving and Paul George, who drove a ton, team high 15 drives, I believe, last game. It was team high, I think 15. It's weird that he could, cut Drummond down a little bit from the style of play they're going to play at. Lowry's minutes held up, moved to the bench, expected. This could be tight-ish. We know Nurse doesn't mess around. 41 for Maxey, but I think we got a little cap on George, but he could be pretty full here. As you mentioned, he played pretty well overall with just the aggressiveness that he played with.
And they are in need of a win. They play, they're in LA for the week, right? They play the Lakers on Friday in LA, and then they go home for a matchup with Charlotte, then New York and Cleveland. Like, the schedule is tough. This team's 1-5 now. If they're unable to get a win on the road, we're looking at potentially like a 2-10 type situation before the schedule starts to loosen up a little bit, which is just, it's overcomable in the East, but it's tough. So yeah, I would expect heavy minutes if the games are competitive here for the main guys. Clippers side. And just Drummond, man. He's been so bad this season, and it's so confounding because he was really good in spot starts last season for the Bulls, and you thought like that's what they were getting when they got the Embiid insurance plan, and he's just been so bad. Like, not even rebounding the ball in the way that he's done in the past. Like, usually Drummond has limitations defensively, and he gets beat up in the pick and roll a lot defensively because he's not like the quickest of jumper, and he doesn't have the greatest of reads on this, but he's always cleaned glass. And he's not even cleaning glass at like incredible rates. It's like more like good rates this year. So it's been really frustrating. All right, Clippers side. No Kawhi, no Mo Bamba, no Cam Christie, no PJ Tucker. Same stuff as always here. Any other notes you have for the Clips?
They got a win. Nice comeback. Down 40-14 at the end of the first, 26-point deficit overcome by their bench. Amir Coffey, fantastic. Chris Dunn had some pretty big impact. It's really been Chris Dunn. We talked about this pretty early in the year that Chris Dunn is cutting into Terrence Mann like a pretty good bit here. And then, Zoo just playing so many minutes here. Harden gets as chat noted, gets the revenge against Daryl Morey for a fun narrative there. We know he does not like that man anymore. But yeah, we know this rotation is pretty stable here. It's just we know who's in. We just don't know kind of how many with respect to Mann, Dunn, Amir Coffey, and Derek Jones Jr. Kind of just, we know that's been loose calling card. The role players will be very much a kind of a, as you mentioned, not a full whack-a-mole, but you don't know how much of who you're going to get on the wins with these guys.
Yeah. All right, Toronto and Sacramento. Last game to talk about today on Toronto's side of the injury report. Scotty Barnes, Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk all listed out, and then Emmanuel Quickley still doubtful. We're heading towards Mark Williams territory now with the number of doubtful games in a row for Emmanuel Quickley. Right, pelvic contusion. This feels like a long time for that injury. Yeah. Have you had any reason to believe that we will see Emmanuel Quickley graduate from the doubtful tag anytime soon?
No. I mean, hoping soon, as you mentioned, to get this many doubtful tags is very, very odd for a contusion. So I think he'll be back soon, but certainly not holding my breath there. And why bring him back when you got Davion Mitchell playing well? I think he had 18 potential assists last game, much to our chagrin. Been playing pretty well. Obviously, RJ Barrett's role is just so insane right now. One of the best guard ball handling wings in the NBA. And then it's Grady Dick season. The guy's playing a ton. He's handling more. He's driving closeouts. Yeah. He's been really, really good. One of the best, young player stories in NBA and a bad team. I always love watching those. Mobo's been pretty good. Sheed's been playing a little bit. Sheed and Mobo. I thought Jacoby Walter was going to be like the young rookie to like boost up. Hasn't happened yet. Maybe certainly injury tied to that, but he's got some ground to close here because these young rookies are playing pretty well for them. I should mention Mobo closed against Joker with Pirtle fouling out.
Yeah, that seems to be the plan. If Pirtle fouls out, which has happened now multiple games, that like Mobo is kind of the next in line, not Boucher. Kind of interesting to note. Yep. King side, Kevin Huerter is still questionable with this illness tag that cost him the last 2 games. So as you have alluded to, these illness tags are lingering long time here. No Devin Carter, no Orlando Robinson. What are your notes on Kevin Huerter's availability tonight?
Yeah, was it shoot around? That's a pretty good sign. So he should be in there. I don't know, though. I could never really tell these injury tags. We did get a bit of a flip here. We were expecting it to be Doug McDermott doing what I call the Dwayne Casey, going from 3rd unit to 1st unit. They did not do that. They went with Keon Ellis, who started and played pretty okay for them. And then, Malik Monk's minutes are pretty safe, all that good stuff. But again, talked about it on Monday. Mike Brown says, "Oh yeah, I got to figure out how to bring these guys minutes." Yeah. No, 38, 39, 37. 36. So yes, this matchup's pretty good. Toronto's interior defense is so bad. They're like Bulls levels of bad rim defense. I covered boy Domantas Sabonis today, expecting a pretty big game out of him. They should have pretty easy scoring against this Raptors team.
We'll also note that the De'Aaron Fox wrist issue that was talked about a little bit. Wasn't listed last game. He shot the ball great. 3 for 6 from 3, 11 for 21 overall. No limitations there. Not listed again. So like I don't know what. I mean, sometimes guys just play through things and it's totally fine. But I don't know why the note on it. It came after. It did suspiciously come after he airballed a 3-point attempt to lose the game in Toronto. I almost wonder if like it was like, hey, we got to say he's got a wrist issue just to like kind of cover it up. But I don't know. He looks totally fine to me.
Yep. He plays through a lot of stuff too, shouldn't it?
Yeah. That'll do it for this edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. As always, if you're interested in supporting our premium content, you can go to establishedrun.com/subscribe-MBA for more details on our premium product offerings, both on the DFS side and on the prop side. If you're interested in the prop side, we please highly encourage reading that FAQ. It's very important to understand what you're getting into. Lines move fast. Bets are difficult to get. The price is elevated. It's a premium product for a reason, and it is only priced at a weekly level for a reason, because many people test it out and it ends up not being for them. Many people stay, and that's how we're able to run a business on it. But please read the FAQ if you're interested in it on that side. On the DFS side, it's shows 5 days a week with myself and Mike Gallagher. His matchups column 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's already out and up today. And of course, all the projections for every game, along with strategy-based content with office hours with me on every other week basis, and also strategy articles from Winky on every other week basis as well. So lots of good stuff, and including access to the ETR NBA Discord and subscriber community there. If you are only along for the free ride, that's cool too. The best way to support us, and we would appreciate your support, is by subscribing to this YouTube channel. We got to our 5,000 subscriber goal last year. We'd like to continue to grow this thing, and as we do, we can monetize this business and keep this show free. So the best way to do that, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can hit the bell and get notifications whenever we post new content, like these shows or the podcast episodes that get posted here as well. Or you can smash that like button on this video and feed the algorithm, which helps feed our families and allows us to feed you the NBA injury information analysis you need each and every day to set your DFS lineups, your season-long lineups, and make your spread bets and your prop bets. So smash that like button, feed that algorithm. Nom, 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 nom. We'll see you tomorrow.